Hello and welcome to the Double Pipcast. My name is Cam, and I've got my brother Dave with me. Say
Hey,
hello,
hey,
Dave.
hey, guys.
Hey, so this is our first episode of the Double Pipcast. Like I said, my name is Cam, and really the reason why I wanted to run this podcast is I love listening to podcasts. I listen to them at work while I'm mowing the lawn, on my way to work. I love the people who do the podcasts, mostly gaming podcasts, but they're an awesome alternative to listen to the radio while you're wasting time. Um, this episode, I really want to just introduce all the listeners out there, whoever's listening to this, what the Transformers TCG by Wizards of the Coast is all about. Kind of talk about the rules, talk about our experiences with the game so far, and go from there. My hope would be to, in the future, talk about the meta, talk about the rules roundups that they do every week, and even at some point, maybe bring on a designer or some competitive players and interview them for your guys' entertainment. Dave, let me turn it to you. What was the the first interaction with the Transformers brand, like overall, that you can remember? The first time you ever interacted with it?
Good question. I think usually people remember the toys, but I think it goes back to that Cartoon Network TV show. I'm pretty sure it was Armada, but that was my favorite. But I just remember how awesome and cool. I remember when they introduced mini cons into the series. I always thought those were the best.
So you've got me. That's something I've never watched Armada. So I started the first time I ever got into Transformers was my grandpa gave me it had to have been a re-release of a G1 Optimus Prime. He came with uh, his whole truck bed and everything. He came with the roller drone and all that, but must have been like an anniversary figure in the early 90s. But then the first show I watched had to have been Beast Wars. What was Armada about? Do you remember it all besides the minicons?
I think the most I remember is just Transformers defending Earth. I always remember the Decepticons had a base on the moon, and it was always the most ominous scenes, seeing Starscream, Megatron up there.
Do you know what the Autobots base is called in
Uh,
the Generation 1 show?
no, I don't. What is it?
Teletran 1. It's like a spaceship that crashed millions and millions of years ago in the side of a mountain, and they never dig it out through the entire cartoon. They just leave it every time it pans in to a scene, it's like a crashed spaceship. And it's
That's cool.
it's got an artificial intelligence and things like that alert them when the Decepticons are near and all that jazz.
Yeah, I remember their high-tech base, but that's cool.
Yeah. So the Transformers trading card game, for those of you listening, the first time Dave has ever played this was actually last Christmas. Dave, you and I played it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had bought the Metroplex character kit myself, and I got it basically double gifted from my brother for, I guess you'd call it like a gift exchange. And I let him have it because I already owned it. So that was the first time we actually played it together. Dave, have you played the game at all since then?
I think, you and I played it a couple times. I haven't really picked it up since then. Only times I've really experienced it were using the Metroplex deck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the to kind of catch you up and anybody listening with what the Transformers trading card game is. So it came out in September. and it was just called Wave 1, the Transformers trading card game. And since then, they've come out with a second set in March called Rise of the Combiner. So it brings in all of your favorite combiner bots, such as Devastator, Predaking, and Optimus Maximus. And then about maybe 2-3 weeks ago, they came out with War for Cybertron Siege 1, which actually aligns with the toy series that they're also doing. The Wave 1, a big thing with the Wave 1 and a little bit of Wave 2, I believe, the art for all of those character cards came from a Transformers mobile game for the phone. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I guess it was a popular mobile game, and the art's really good on these cards. And yeah, they just reused a lot of the art, I guess, to save money because they weren't sure if it was going to be a hit. But for the third set, all the character art is new by a new artist. I don't have his name in front of me, his or her name. But so the card game, the designers designed it to be fast-paced, casual-friendly, two-player game with big giant robots. When you think of big giant robots, you don't really think of super strategic wars of attrition like Magic the Gathering, where you have all these crazy combos and your opponent may not even get a chance to play, right? So this is really fast-paced, it's fun, it's simple, but it's also got some depth, especially now that we're on our third release. There's some depth there too. Some of the basic rules, there's a 40 card minimum for your deck, and every character card has a star cost, so you can't just play the most OP cards, and you have a maximum of 25 stars worth of characters in your deck. So you can have 210 costs, and then maybe like a weaker support character that costs 5 stars. That's 25, and that's what you run.
What's the average star cost, you think, of the
I would imagine it's probably 8. Mm-hmm. There's only a few 4 cost characters. Some of them are in the Metroplex deck, like Slammer, the tank with only one side.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I'd say about 8.
Yeah.
Once you start going to 9 and 10 and so on, there's basically the star cost is a way of balancing the character. So they have every character has 2 sides, a bot mode and an alt mode. So car, plane, spaceship, whatever. So each side has a attack and defense cost that's different depending on how you flip it. The only thing they share is their health. So their health is the same on both sides. And you can flip, once per turn, you can flip from bot to alt mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's those abilities on there on each side. So one side may say, when you flip to this mode, draw 1 card. And the other side may say, when you flip to this mode, deal 1 damage to an enemy transformer.
Mm.
Go ahead.
What's the catch? Why do I just stack a bunch of super powerful 10-star cards, or?
So the reason why you wouldn't want to do, let's say, let's just make it easy and say 2 12-star cards. Mm-hmm. You've got 2 characters. The other side could play 4 low-star cost characters and have what they call a 4-wide deck.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you attack with a character, it's tapped sideways to indicate that it's inactive until the next phase of play. And then, so let's say I was the guy playing as a 2-wide deck and you had 4. I would go and attack. You would go and attack, and you have to attack to pass the turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go, I play my last guy, tap him, attack you. You now have 1, 2, 3 characters left to attack with, because you have to basically tap out and tap all 3 of your characters in order to reset the play phase. So I get 2 attacks. You get 1, then 3 uncontested, unanswered attacks from me. I can defend against them, but you get to go 3 targeted attacks when both my characters are tapped. So you would hope that your deck is set up in such a way that the 2 guys you have are super beefy and are worth only running 2 wide, which a lot of people do. There's some popular decks that do just 2 characters. Nemesis Prime and Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is one that comes to mind off the top of my head. But that would be the detriment to that, would be just eating multiple attacks and only being able to deal out 2.
Interesting. 2 completely different strategies.
Yeah. There's a ton, and to kind of dial it back a little bit. So your characters, when you are looking to like buy these cards, you can buy them in these starter sets, which come with pre-constructed decks and cards that will most likely add up to 25. That way you can play them 2-player right out of the box, or you have a competitive deck right out of the box. And then there's booster packs, which come with 8 battle cards, which are the cards that compose your deck, and then 1 character card. The character card is always going to be holographic on one side, and it can be common, uncommon, rare, or super rare, but you'll only ever have 1 character card in the deck. And then those character cards, as you know, Dave, are super big. They're the same size. If you're familiar with Magic, they're the same size as a commander card. It's like 4 inches by 5 inches or 3.5 inches. So that's what comes in a pack. With combiners, they released cards that have their, instead of being 1 full side as 1 mode, they have their car and their alt mode on one side, and then the card actually bends in the middle. And then on the other side, it's actually a portion of the art. Have you ever seen those action figures, like the Marvel action figures, where you buy all 5 of them and you combine like the parts to make a big dude?
Yeah.
Same idea. So like the other side of the card is like the leg of a Transformer, and the other side is a very small picture of the car mode and a very small picture of the Autobot mode.
So fans of Yu-Gi-Oh might think of Exodia.
Exodia, yeah.
All pieces. Yep.
Exactly. And then for War for Cybertron, the set that just came out a couple weeks ago, they released the mini cons you were talking about. They call them Battle Masters and I believe Micro Masters. And the Battle Masters, when they get knocked out, they actually have a weapon on the other side, like an upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
So as soon as they're knocked out, you can attach them to any character on your field, and you get all the buffs that are in the little info.
Yeah, what do you mean upgrade? So in case anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, so the game plays out like this. So you start the game with your 40 card decks. You have a 40 card minimum. You can go up from there, but anybody who knows about probability, the more cards you have in your deck, the less probability you have of seeing some of the valuable cards you put in there. So a 40 card minimum, a 25 character minimum. There are 2 types of cards, actions, and which is kind of like if you're familiar with Pokemon, it's like a trainer card. And then there are upgrades, and there's 3 subtypes of upgrades, which is utility, armor, and weapon. So on any given turn, you can play 1 action and 1 upgrade. Every Transformer card can take 3 upgrades, 1 of each type: utility, armor, and upgrade. Unless a card tells you otherwise. Like Predaking can take I think it's 5 weapons.
Hmm.
Or just I may be talking out of my rear, but I think some characters can take multiple weapons or multiple upgrades, and some cards like Brainstorm is a action card that allows you to play 2 additional actions. So the basically the combo ability is pretty high. But so what do you remember of how the game played?
Well, I remember since I was using the Metroplex deck, what sticks out to me the most, I mean, it's a really fun game, but my favorite part was flipping Metroplex over, and I believe his action for alt mode or the ladder, it was deploy another Autobot, and that I thought it made me feel like I'm actually playing with this massive city-sized robot that's deploying more massive robots every time that you perform an action, which was cool.
Yeah, and like, isn't it crazy how big Metroplex is?
Yeah, you see it in the box and it doesn't look as big as when you pull that thing out and it's the centerpiece of your playing field. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like I think my hand is just a little bit bigger than a regular Transformers card,
Hmm.
and yeah, the Metroplex card is humongous. It's probably like twice the size. It's insane. Yeah, like the the thing about the way the game plays is, like I said, it's fast paced, so you can only play normally 2 cards per turn, an action and an upgrade. You can flip a character over from its car mode or alt mode to its bot mode.
Hmm.
You can do the ability on your character's card info, like do an extra damage, draw a card, whatever, and then you can attack. So there's not a lot, there's some, but there's not a ton of like stalling or pondering that you're going to be doing, because you're not putting out a bunch of cards to kind of set up a giant play. It's pretty quick. I mean, who knows? Like the extra sets may introduce that. The most recent set, and Dave, you haven't seen this, but they introduced something. Did you ever play Yu-Gi-Oh?
A little bit. I played more. Yeah, I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh.
You remember trap cards?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they introduced something called Secret Action, which you play in place of your normal action, and the card actually says Secret Action on it. You play it face down, and it will have a trigger effect on your opponent's turn. So if they attack you or if they play an action, so it's basically a way to have agency on their turn.
You've triggered my trap card.
Yes, Pegasus. So the object of the game, do you remember, Dave, how to win?
How to win Transformers?
Yeah.
Defeat the enemy robots.
Yeah, so there's not, as of today, there aren't alternative win conditions. Like, what are the win conditions in Pokemon? It's been forever since I've played it.
You got your six prizes on the left or right side. I can't remember which one, but you got your 6 face down cards. Every time you defeat an enemy Pokemon, you get to flip one of those prize cards over and add it to your hand. And it's whoever either runs out of Pokemon in play or picks up their 6 prize cards first. So it really resembles that old school Pokemon feel in the game. Like you got your 6 Pokemon, switching them out.
Yeah, and like in Pokemon, you can actually also run your deck out, which makes you lose.
That too, yeah. If you run out of cards. Now, is it the same in Transformers? I can't remember.
No, so in Transformers, as soon as your deck is drawn out, you actually take your entire discard pile or graveyard and shuffle that back up, and it becomes your deck again. And the reason for that is when we've talked about attacking and defending to a lesser extent, the attacks damage. Your character has a sword and a shield icon. Sword for attack, shield for defense, lest you think otherwise. The sword icon is compounded by action cards. It's compounded by upgrades like the weapon, armor, and utility. But you also flip a minimum of 2 cards from the top of your deck every turn. And there are these pips or battle points, as they officially call them, but there's these little pips, which are colored icons on the top corner that indicate what they do when flipped from the top of your deck during a battle. So there's orange, which is attack. And they add each orange drawn in from the top of your deck adds to your sword total. There's blue. A defender would take blue and get additional shield. There's white, which is basically a bonus pip, and it gives you, the first time you see it on in a battle, it gives you 2 additional battle cards, so you go from 2 to 4. With the combiner set, they came out with a green pip, which allows you to, if you expose it during a battle, like it's part of your flip, you can actually pick that card up in exchange for a card in your hand. So it's a way to, if you're burning cards and you're like, oh, man, I just burned a card that I would rather have in my hand and I didn't get to draw it, you can pick that up in exchange for maybe a bum card in your hand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it adds a little more strategy to it. And then the last pip just came out a couple weeks ago. It's the black pip, and it gives you Pierce. Do you remember what Pierce is?
I mean, by what I remember in the name, it's something about ignoring the defenses, right?
Yeah, so let's say I have 3 attack, you have 3 defense. That would normally do 0. But let's say I had an upgrade on me that was Piercing Blaster, which it has a pierce of 3. It's going to deal no more than what my attack total is, but a minimum of whatever my total pierce value is.
Minimum. Got it.
Yeah, so it's a minimum amount of damage. But let's say I had that on me and my base attack was only 1. I have a pierce of 3. I'm going to do 1.
Okay.
So pierce is this much damage is guaranteed to get through. Pierce adds up. So if you had 3 pierce and then you throw down a couple of black pips while you're flipping your cards over, those stack. And the only way that's beneficial is if your character has high attack or you flipped additional orange pips as well. So there's characters that have 8 attack on the actual card that's like they inherit it. High pierce would be good for a character like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. In addition to pierce, there's a couple other keywords on cards. The keywords are indicative of some additional things that are key to the game. There's bold, which is another way to supplement how many cards come off the top of your deck when you attack. So your character could have bold 1, you get your 2 normal flips, a bold 1, and what's really cool is that bonus white pip, those 2 extra cards, that stacks with that. So you could have some really gnarly attacks. Metroplex, I don't know if you've got them near you, but Metroplex actually lives off of bold because he's got a pretty crazy ability that hinges on getting 2 of every color pip, 2 blues, 2 whites, and 2 reds or 2 oranges to trigger his ability. So he really lives off of bold.
If I remember, he also combines with he gains bold for however many ally Autobots or Decepticons are out in play, and gets stronger and stronger the more in play, I think it is. So his bold can get really crazy.
Yeah, he's got 3 guys that deploy out from under him.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them, it's basically their sole purpose to keep him alive and power him up and buff him. So if you're playing Metroplex, your goal is to get those guys out from under him.
That's what it was.
Basically all of them give him some sort of bold.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's cards that come with that pre-constructed deck that buff up. Like it's crazy how playable that deck is simply out of the box. How many games you can win.
Yeah.
And then the exact opposite of bold is tough. And can you guess what tough does?
Let's see. Probably sounds like the reverse of bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get, as a defender, if you have tough on your character, either through an action card, an innate ability from your character, or an upgrade, you get to draw additional cards while you're on the defense. So if you're building a deck that's heavy with blue, maybe you have high base attack damage, and you're building blue, you may want to run tough cards that allow you to get more than your 2 defense. From what I've seen when I've gone to events or played with others, more people are heavy on the orange, the aggro decks. So tough and those blue pips in your deck are very, very good against that. And then there's a newer keyword called plan, which allows you, if the card says to plan, it'll say plan 1 or plan 2. That means you get to take 2 cards. You get to, usually it's draw a card and then plan 1. So it's like take a look at a card, either keep it in your hand or return it or another one in your hand to the top of the deck. So you basically get to stack the deck. So if you had a good card pip wise, like a double orange, and you were about to attack and you were able to plan 1, you'd get to take a card off the top of your deck that may be a bum card, like a white pip or a green pip, and put a double orange down on there to guarantee 2 extra damage.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They've got stealth and brave. So stealth, if you have an upgrade or an action or a character innate ability, stealth makes it so if able, the other character, your opponent, cannot attack you if there are other bots on your side that can be attacked. So if you've got like a squishy bot, not a lot of health, you can kind of defend them if they've got like a really good ability or they turn on or get better the longer the game goes on.
Yeah, and I like that callback to they're laying low. You know, they're not in alt mode. They're not battling.
Yeah, so that stealth you could put on whoever you want to keep stealth and not in the fray for as long as possible. At some point, they're going to take damage. They're going to have to fight because, again, the game is fast-paced, so it's not a stall game. At some point, it's going to end sooner rather than later. And Brave is the opposite. Brave makes it so people have to target that bot. So if you've got a big, beefy character or a character that you don't really care if it gets knocked out, that's what Brave is for.
Interesting, like a taunt, like you're
basically, yeah, like a taunt. So, yeah, I mean, I'm super into the game. It's crazy how I don't want to say I got addicted to it, but I got a free promotional card at a work convention I went to back in August. The game came out in September. Did you know I actually bought the starter pack for me and Kristen, my wife,
really?
For those of you listening? Yeah, and you know, so Kristen, she plays games with me. We just beat Diablo last month, I think. We played Toe Jam and Earl together. So she'll do nerdy things with me, usually not without me. Like she'll play Stardew Valley, like that's her game. But anyway, I bought the starter pack. It was on sale, or I got a discount on it or something, basically when the game came out, and we played. And then I got bit by the bug, and you know me, like I kind of go hard on things. If I like it, I'll go all out. Just like with League of Legends, I have all like a bunch of skins. So I ended up getting packs and really just liking to collect them.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you about the event that I like the Learn to Play event I hosted?
You mentioned it before, but
Yeah, that place is out of business now.
oh no.
Yeah, it was like I don't know.
That's
It was
quick.
huge. It was a giant place, and I don't think card shops make a ton of money, and they didn't have a ton of attendance, but this place was enormous. And
Yeah.
but anyway, it's sad to see that the local gaming store went out of business. But yeah, I ran an event on a Sunday or a Saturday, gave out cards. People came from uh, at 30 to 45 minutes away just to play from like towns and towns over. And that was a blast. But yeah, and for those of you listening, and Dave, you know this, like I started coding and I transitioned careers. I was so into it and I wanted to test out my coding skills. I made a damage counter web app for this game because I didn't
Mhm.
really want to buy a bunch of damage counters or dice and things like that.
Mhm.
And also I was trying to figure out a way to like meld the two.
Mhm.
So I made that damage counter app, and I know there's a lot of people out there that actually like using it, which is
Yeah.
cool, and I use it too.
We used it at Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely handy. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just went all in on it, and I don't play every week. I probably went maybe once a month, just because I don't want it to take over my life, or like every other day or every weekend I'm doing that, and not
Yeah.
getting chores done or not hanging out with Kristen or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I have a good time with it. I get my cards out some nights and make new decks or organize them or whatever. I'm always on the Facebook group. You guys can check out the Transformers Facebook group. It's huge. There's also breakouts for each state. So if you're looking for local groups, you can go to Transformers Facebook group and figure that out. There's a ton of people on there. Uh, Very helpful. Tell you what to buy. Give you some advice on decks, and then you can figure out where the next organized play is at your local comic shop or game shop. Do you have a lot of card shops where you're at, Dave?
Yeah, well, so those listening, I'm over in Minneapolis. Yeah, there's a ton. One of my favorites is Dreamer's Vault. It's kind of small, really small, but that's the thing. I last time I was in there, I was asking about Transformers, and she said, and I'm not exaggerating, she said the second that they got all their new sets in, sold them out. And
Yeah,
I
that's
was,
crazy.
yeah,
The
it's
place I
wild.
was just at, when Siege, the War for Cybertron Siege set came out in June,
Mm-hmm.
the box that we used for prizing and for our draft play, that was the
Mm-hmm.
last box they had.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think like you were saying before, it's so easy to get into, and I like that you were saying you don't have to be the diehard go at it every single day to still feel in it, you know?
Yeah.
You still I know Kristen still kicks your butt with an old deck.
Yeah, dude. So that's the thing. Like and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I will do what they call fishbowl play, where I make a deck and then I have a deck on the other end, and I'll actually play solitaire against myself with these decks.
Mm.
And you'd think that you'd be kind of biased in sandbagging on the
Yeah.
other deck, which would make the deck you just made worse. But I don't do that. I typically, the deck that I made loses against the deck that I'm playing against. Uh, but
Yeah,
yeah,
the
when I play with
Metroplex.
Kristen, yeah, yep, I always play against Metroplex because I know he'll smoke me. But when I play with Kristen and I don't like not play action cards or not upgrade or not play optimally, and she'll smoke me. Um, She doesn't like to play it, but she'll play it with me just to appease me and satiate my need to play.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I have a ton of fun when I go out, and the cool thing is I, I mean, I haven't played Magic. I played it maybe a little bit in the 90s, but the last big card game I played was the original Dragon Ball Z card game by Score, I think, and then the Pokemon card game. And maybe it's just the way I'm remembering it, but those people were just so they looked down on you, and everybody was angry, especially if there was like money or prizes on the line. Everybody was angry. Nobody was friendly.
Stress.
Yeah, it's like I play games, especially if I'm spending a Sunday or a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go there and have to like argue with anybody or have anybody like I don't know, man. Like there's certain things I can deal with, but so with the Transformers game, at least with the people I've been around, and I try to be friendly, introduce myself, shake hands as people walk in, make them feel welcome. But most people have been friendly. There's a guy who actually runs the local, and I'm in Michigan. The guy who runs our local Transformers events, he's awesome. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He'll help you out with extra cards. If you're missing a certain guy, he'll trade with you. But he does a great job of running the events, and he makes them really fun. And I love going there, and I love interacting with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And I think it's cool because it's almost like a grassroots movement. When the game came out in September, it was Wizards was really quiet about it. Basically, like they put it out there to see how it would do. And there was no organized play. They have the Wizards Play Network, which is basically if your store is part of it, it's like a sanctioned place where you get prize support from Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't exist until recently this year. And they had like a big tournament, and there was prizes and a trophy, and there's going to be a giant tournament that takes winners, like the most winningest players from every venue, and pits them together in like one place. So it's going to be crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So that grassroots feeling, it's like, even though maybe only, I don't know, 5 to 10 people show up at best at an event or at casual play, opposed to what you would see at Friday Night Magic, it just feels like more of a community. People are happy to have somebody to play against and to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a ton of egos, which is really cool. And then on Facebook, there's a few people that maybe have transitioned from Transformers, and they're on there and they give snarky answers that aren't productive or whatever. And I mean, that's just the internet, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, people on there are very friendly, and it's an awesome community to be a part of, to actually see the game grow from what it was in September to what it was now. And it hasn't even been a year yet, and the amount that it's grown is nuts.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. So the focus for me of Transformers is the characters. For the most part, all the characters are super unique looking. They have a different personality if you watch the cartoons or even read the comics. So every character, I mean, that's the draw to it. There's hundreds of characters and each one's different. Almost like Pokemon, you can get drawn to a certain character. Do you have a favorite, Dave? And maybe you may not even be able to name it, but do you have a favorite character that comes to mind?
A favorite character?
Yeah.
No, nothing. I remember you showing me what was that? It's the reptile-based team that you were showing me.
Dinobots.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's exactly Dinobots.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones seemed really different. Like you might have to build a cool deck around it to get those to work, but.
Oh yes, people have definitely built decks around the Dinobots. They're one of those aggro orange decks.
Yeah.
Because Grimlock does like splash damage. So if he smokes one of your guys and they die.
Yeah.
anything overkill spills onto another character.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a little nuts.
It could get a little out of hand.
Yeah. So if you're building orange, let's say you had a character with 5 health left and he does 15, you're taking 10 extra damage somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
High risk, high reward sounds like.
But the thing is he's strong. Like, it's not like he's a glass cannon.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, it's nuts, and he's got some crazy synergies. But what were we saying? We were talking about favorite characters.
Yeah, do you got a favorite character?
Yeah, so it's weird. So I own the G1 show, like the entire collection on DVD, and I own the movie, which is awesome. The movie is actually really good. I think it was 1986. Leonard Nimoy is one of the voice actors. Did you know that the Optimus Prime voice actor is the same guy who's been doing it since the 80s? He's doing it for, like, he does it for the Michael Bay movies. Basically anything that he's in, yeah, he does.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, if you get a chance on Netflix, they've got a series called The Toys That Made Us.
Mm-hmm.
And they go over like American toys that were super impactful. Barbie, Transformers. They might do G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Star Trek, and it's these really cool documentaries on all these toy series. The Transformers one and that entire story. If you're at all interested in Transformers, watch The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. It's awesome. The Transformers one. The whole story behind it is crazy. Basically, Hasbro, the people went over to Japan and saw what these other companies were doing and licensed the molds for these characters from different toy lines.
Yeah.
Brought them together. So Insecticons, different toy line. Megatron, Optimus, different toy lines, just transforming toys. Hey, we're going to make these under one brand called Transformers. And I may be butchering the history a little bit, but that's the gist. They Americanized it, gave them names like Optimus Prime, Megatron, Shockwave.
Yeah.
And sold them under one brand. So some characters look a little bit different than other ones. Are like, why does this look different? Oh, it's because it was not made by the same folks.
Yeah, and I always remember one of my favorite things about the TV show is how different all of them were. Mm-hmm. You know, all of the Decepticons, some of them, you know, I remember, I think it was Shockwave was like almost pink, like bright purple, and then, you know, it's complete opposite. You've got dark colors, and then Bumblebee.
Well, I don't know if you've ever watched the Generation 1 cartoon, or maybe you may have seen a meme or something like that of it, but the original Megatron, do you know what he transformed into?
Well, I know it wasn't a tank.
No.
It wasn't a jet.
No, it was a gun. It was like every Transformer had their own blaster.
Yeah.
He transformed into like a small pistol so he would transform and jump into Starscream's hand or one of his lackeys' hands, and they would fire him.
Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, the G1 show was really just an advertisement for the toys.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least me watching it. It's like they say every character's name out loud. Like, all right, Blaster. Oh, Mom, I want Blaster. But, I mean, you can't go to the toy shelf and see Megatron as a gun, and then he transforms into a tank. But I think now in canon he is a big tank. Yeah,
that's funny that him transforming into something puny that one of his cronies has to use.
Yeah, I read somewhere, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I read somewhere that the reasoning they gave behind it is that all of his power concentrated into a super awesome blast when it was fired. So I guess it was stronger than getting shot normally. Yeah.
It's the Megatron. Megatron gun?
Yeah, and it's crazy. So there's been 3 releases of the card game. The top printed cards, like characters that have had reprints, and it's probably not a surprise, but it's Optimus Prime, Megatron, and then I'm sure you can guess the third.
Is it Bumblebee?
Yeah, Bumblebee.
Hey.
Bumblebee, I think, has at least 5 or 6 cards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, are they all different, or they
Oh yeah,
play
yeah.
different?
They're all different stats, different abilities, different art.
That's cool.
Different rarities. Yeah. So, I mean, the only reason I think that they have that is that, I mean, Bumblebee he was a cute, like, puppy dog R2-D2 character in all the Michael Bay movies.
Yeah.
He had his own movie. And in all the cartoons since the Michael Bay movies, he's a big deal. But, I mean, in the cartoon, he was somewhat prominent, but not as prominent as he is now. He wasn't as popular back then. At least watching the cartoon, he was not as popular. I mean, Ironhide, I think, was more synonymous with the Transformers cartoon than Bumblebee was. But it is what it is. He's got a lot of prints. He's got the super rare card is probably his coolest art, I think. The super rare from Wave 1. Yeah. So, so do you have any plans to, I know you and I have talked about trying to play over video. Do you have any plans to maybe get out there and try playing at some point?
Yeah,
figure out where your scene is?
That's a good question. Like I was saying, I went to the local shop the other day to pick up, I think I was picking up a new set of dice. And I was just asking them, because you just mentioned that a new wave was coming out, and like I said, they were sold out. So my next question was, well, those people buying the cards, are they playing here? And she actually said, she told me they do events. I think it's once every 2 weeks. They'll do a Transformers night, and she said it's booming. When I say booming, maybe 20, 25 people.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I'm definitely going to check it out. I hesitated at first. I wanted to see where the game was going, and I really like all the new features they've added, like the different pips.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not a giant Transformers fan or even a casual Transformers fan, I mean, definitely don't go all in on it, but it'd definitely be sweet if you picked it up a little bit more and we were able to. I know you're coming into town here in a little while. It'd be awesome to rematch. If somebody's already got a scene going, that's cool because you don't have to work as hard to get people to show up. But that'd be awesome. You could even, with as strong as that Metroplex deck is, plus the other packs you got, I don't know, I don't remember what cards you had extra, but the Metroplex deck could actually at least get you placed, and then you can win more packs.
Yeah. Build something else. But hey, I like using the Metroplex.
Be sweet. Yeah, you gotta. I think that's one of the bummers about card games for me is all the extra stuff you don't have to, but if you want to protect your cards and all that, the extra stuff you have to buy, you got to buy sleeves. You got to buy a box for your deck to carry in so you don't look like a weirdo, like carrying it around in a plastic bag. You got to buy what do they call them? Top loaders, the hard sleeves for your cards.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, because otherwise your cards are going to deteriorate after slamming them down. But I think that's a big bummer is having to buy all that stuff. Once you've bought the cards, to have to spend 10, 20, $50 on accoutrements. Some people get really into that. I'm not a huge fan of having to buy play mats and a tube for your playmat, and then a specialized backpack that holds all that stuff.
Jeez, the list goes on.
Yeah, it could be staggering, but to each their own. I know some folks out there really like to pick up all that extra stuff. They get purple sleeves for their Decepticon deck. I mean,
Oh yeah.
winning in style, it definitely feels good. So, yeah, man, it's something I'm super into. We got to play after. Maybe since I've already got you on this podcast, maybe we can turn on the FaceTime or the Google Hangouts and throw down.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, my goal is to hopefully next episode talk a little bit more about what the meta is, talk about the rules roundups, get a little bit deeper into that. I'm sure we'll have some feedback from the people that listen to this, things we could change.
Mm-hmm.
I know you probably won't be on every episode, but as often as you can make it, I'd appreciate it. Update people on your journey to getting into it, or I can razz you about not getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, at some point I'd like to have interviews with people that actually work at Wizards and work on this game. That'd be a blast. I wish I had the name of the guy who won the most recent giant tournament. Let me bring it up here. That's going to take me too long to bring it up, I bet. But get him on here and talk to him about what that experience was like. Because I'm sure you'd have a lot of awesome strategies to share and give some insight on what the tournament scene is like as well.
Yep.
The last tournament I went to for the Siege release, Dave, I lost every single game but the last two.
Yeah.
And so the setup for it was 6 packs. You paid $20, you got 6 packs, everybody opened them, and that was your deck. You had to still abide by the 25 character star rule, which wasn't an issue. So I actually drew super rare Shockwave.
Oh.
Which is, I don't know, maybe anywhere from like a $50 to $80 card on eBay, depending on what somebody's willing to pay. So I drew that, and he's a pretty awesome card, and I had some pretty good support for him. But maybe I just didn't. Maybe I was rushed or I didn't want to play him for some reason. But I ended up running Trailbreaker, Sideswipe, and Red Alert. 3 Autobots. Not a ton of synergy there, but I thought it was better. The 2 games that I won was when I asked for permission to switch out my character cards, which was fine. And I ran Shockwave, Ravage, one of Soundwave's guys, Ravage, and Blowpipe. And Blowpipe was a Battle Master, so when he got KO'd, he was a weapon for Shockwave.
Oh.
And dude, I was laying waste.
Yep.
I was like, man, if I would have been playing that deck the entire time, I would have placed and gotten more Wizard Play Network points, which I think add up, so you can actually end up going to the event if you've got enough points.
Oh, nice.
Like their penultimate event. But yeah, instead I just got smoked every single round until I switched out. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
I'm not salty.
I mean, live and learn. Yeah. Yeah, not salty at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to give everybody else a chance and make them feel better.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, to wrap up, thank you for listening. I plan to come out with more episodes as long as people are interested, and as long as this game goes. Hopefully, it goes for a long time to come. I recommend you guys going to the Transformers trading card game website, the official Hasbro website. Check out the rules. Check out the products that are available, like the Metroplex deck that we've plugged like a million times, free advertisement. Check out the Facebook page, the unofficial Transformers trading card game Facebook group. Follow the official Transformers trading card page because they post a lot of awesome spoilers for new cards, the rules roundup, some new rulings about cards that have been released and how they interact with each other. And then you may have a local group for where you live that you can also join and figure out where the best place to play is. Thank you for listening to the Double Pipcast, the first episode. I've been Cam,
I'm Dave.
and I hope to see you guys next time.
Later, everybody.